Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I'd like to invite everybody to join Council in rising to sing O Canada. Please be seated. Now, as is our custom, I'll give our opening prayer, and we'll then follow that with our moment of silent reflection, and then we'll begin the meeting proper. God, grant us understanding and patience that justice, truth, and honesty may be evident in our decisions. Make us mindful of the needs of the people throughout the town of Oakville. Help us govern with the wider community in mind, and create in us a desire for progress and responsible action. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, do we have any regrets?
No, Mr. Mayor, we do not.
And Council, I think we all share a sense of joy at the return of our colleague, Councillor Max Kahn. Welcome back, and it's delightful to say you're the picture of health. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Thank you. You have before you the minutes of the regular session of Council from January 23rd, the confidential minutes of the closed session of Council from January 23rd, and the minutes of the regular session of Council from February 6th. How do you wish to proceed with your minutes? Councillor Elgar?
I would move those minutes.
Councillor Elgar moves the minutes. Councillor Adams seconded. All those, any changes? All in favor? Opposed? And they are adopted. Now, it's my pleasure to present to Council this evening this little trophy. I wonder if I can put it up here. Was it Bob and Doug who said zoom in on the? This is the prestigious 2012 Federation of Canadian Municipalities Sustainable Communities Award, and we won that last week for our green buildings and green building initiatives. As we all know on Council, we have an important role to play in leading on environmental issues, and with our Livable Oakville plan, we have the right policies and programs in place to ensure a sustainable community. We have an integrated approach to reducing the ecological footprint of our existing municipal buildings, and we're working to ensure that new facilities meet cutting-edge efficiency standards. So we've received the Sustainable Communities Award for the green initiatives that were used at the new Oakville Transit Facility and the 16-mile sports complex. These two buildings followed an innovative town policy that requires new municipal buildings larger than 500 meters to achieve LEED Silver certification. We were also acknowledged by FCM for the Sustainable Building Procedure and Sustainable Design Guidelines for retrofitting and maintaining all town facilities, as well as the town's corporate energy management plan, which has saved taxpayers lots of money so far. I want to thank Council for the way you lead on environmental, energy, and building issues. I want to thank town staff for their foresight and resourcefulness in implementing the town's environmental policies. And a special mention for nominating the town for this award goes out to Suzanne Matter. It's a very good sharp eye you have for the opportunity, as well as to Nicole Wolf and Sar Fasalat from Facilities and Construction Manager under the direction of Shelley Switzer and Cindy Toth. And they're all here tonight. Please take a bow. Now, but wait, there's more. There's a video. And Suzanne, if you'll do the honors, FCM actually produced this video. So we hopefully can't be blamed for the content.
For the last 3 years, all the new buildings that the town has built, according to the official plan, have all been LEED Silver.
Looking at energy management or sustainable building design, your operating costs will be reduced.
Look at the 16-mile sports complex building, where we've saved about 50% in energy cost alone. There we have a lot of natural light. The heat that's rejected from making of ice in winters is actually recirculated to heat the stands. We are reducing the greenhouse gases by about 1,600 tons in that building alone in a year.
The green building design procedure is focused on our existing as well as our new construction buildings, and with that it accompanies the sustainable design guidelines.
They make our lives very easy because they actually talk about geothermal, they talk about green buildings, they talk about permeable pavers. All these things were used in the transit facility that we are standing in right now. We are doing all the stormwater rain harvesting here, and what happens is that water is used in bus washes, and that releases a lot of pressure from the potable water.
My department had done an energy audit of the largest facilities that we have.
We've got recommendations in those energy audits for new technology and new practices.
So sustainable design guidelines that we developed, they do go beyond LEED, and they go beyond LEED Silver. One thing we're going to be doing going forward is setting up some metrics.
Bringing the data to the facility managers is essential. We've installed interval meters on all of our largest facilities as they are our largest users of energy, so that we can capture data, real-time data, and we can implement practices, operational practices to reduce our energy use.
One of the biggest changes we're undergoing as a corporation is the issue or the idea of life cycle costing.
We were using, in most cases, other people's money to build the buildings, and it was our money that was going to operate them. So we had no choice. We had to look at the operating costs.
We're looking at it from the first design, the first start of the design, how it's designed, and then during construction and while it's maintained, how you're maintaining it. That gives us an argument to let's go with this more energy efficient boiler, for instance, that might cost $20,000 more.
There is a very short payback period, and there's a lot of social and economical benefits to the town.
It's a benefit to the community, it's a benefit to the corporation and to the environment.
So Suzanne, congratulations on that. And by the way, all of you look very good on camera. So is that everything you needed us to do? Is there a photo or anything? All right. Okay, so we'll do a photo. Well, we don't always have that kind of fun here. Council, it was suggested to me by Councillor Elgar earlier that in order to be able to focus on the matter that's brought the public here tonight, we might, subject to your approval, change the agenda around a touch to do the Oakville Hydro item and let them go, assuming that, like him, you're willing to move it without going into camera. All right, then I just need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Elgar and Councillor Knoll move adoption of, or rather receipt of item 2, and they move the recommendation in C1. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that does carry. Thank you very much. We thank Oakville Hydro for being here, and you owe us now, because we gave you some time back. So I believe that clears the decks. For the only thing that would be left would be the other standing committees. Oh yes, and then to be in the same spirit, perhaps a mover and seconder would give us this motion to refer item 1 to the CAO, and then he can bring it back at his pleasure another time. That would be Councillor Duddick and Councillor Giddings. All in favor? Opposed? And that item is referred back to the CAO. So now, that brings us to our delegations. And so I was asked by council to ask all the members of the public who are here on this item tonight to try to keep in mind one little helpful hint. If you've heard something ahead of you that you agree with, it's not necessary to repeat it. You could just say you agree with it. And, or put another way, you're allowed up to 10 minutes, but you don't have to use it all. And how to say, if you're here to persuade council of something, repeating the same thing over and over again, I can tell you from past experience, is not your winning tactic. So me too is a lot better than saying the same thing over again. And with that, I leave it up to you. You can say anything you want. You can repeat each other word for word if you want. I'm just giving you helpful hints around how to persuade council when you want them to do things your way. So, Madam Clerk, would you call the first delegation?
And Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, all the delegations tonight are on item 1 of the Community Services Committee meeting, which is dealing with Darlington Trails. And the first delegation would be Jerry Cullen from the Halton District School Board.
Welcome, Mr. Cullen. Council looks forward to your information, and you have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Burton and members of council. I agree with your comments. I'm really not here to delegate or persuade. I think I'm here really to answer some of the questions that went unanswered the night of the committee meeting that occurred, I believe it was a week or so ago. There was a number of questions that came up regarding the board, and I should first say that Kelly Amos, trustee for the area, is not here this evening. Kelly's the co-chair of the Boundary Committee, which happens to be meeting tonight for our new high school in Oakville, so she has a much more exciting evening, I think, ahead of her than I do. Part of our purpose here tonight is really to go back to questions and comments that were related to the traffic study that was done in 2008. There was some concern about the use of the loop on the site. Excuse me, thank you. For the purposes of drop-off on the westerly portion of the school, we have reviewed the MMM report. It does clearly indicate in 2 different locations that that is not intended to be used as a drop-off area. It is identified as staff parking and a service area. So that was one of the items that did come up with, that did require some clarification. I think the other items that were also relevant related to the board's comments, as the staff from the town indicated in conversation about potentially reviewing the location of the crossing guard. Both their recommendation and that of the board's would be that remain where it is. It is more than suitable, adequate, and safe in our opinion, and we would support that portion of the staff recommendation that came forward. The other items that were contained in the report related to this, I'll say the initial 2008 report, that is for the traffic study and the addition. There were comments raised about why Darlington Trail was specifically noted in that report, and it was in response to questions that were raised at site plan by the Northeast Oakville Residents Association. So it wasn't necessarily pertinent to their overall study as much as it was in response to questions that came from site plan. So my comments really end at that point. They were related to items that came up at committee, and we were unable to answer them at that point in time. I thought they might be relevant in your decision-making process this evening. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming and sharing that information. Are there any questions, Council? Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much for your delegation and appearing today. Some of the discussions that we had after the meeting, can you just clarify that? Where do we stand now? I understand that an engineering firm was going to be retained to look at some of the traffic issues. And can you shed some light on whether or not at this time the board intends on satisfying the site plan conditions that were signed off on at that time, I think in 2008?
Certainly through Mayor Burton to Councillor Khan. The commitment on behalf of the board is to follow any of those recommendations and all. That's why I wanted to clarify that the drop-off, the comments at committee, at the committee meeting, as I recall them, implied that the westerly portion should be used for a drop-off. That is not the case. So once again, I would say that the board is already conforming to that and would continue to do so. That was really, I think, the most significant element of that that report and the concern that we might not be following that. So I wanted to make sure that council was aware that we are following the report as it was written.
And where are we with respect to the engineering study that's going to be done?
We've contacted MMM, the Marshall Macklin Monaghan. Their new moniker is now MMM. They will be doing a review to look at how the site is being used. They're comparing that obviously to their intended study. When they do most of the traffic studies, they're doing it ahead of the actual addition or modification to the population or enrollment of the school. So this is an opportunity for them to come back and review, is it working as they had intended to? So they will be doing that. It will take them about another 3 weeks to do so. I was talking to their staff today. Their workload is such that they think this is a relatively easy review for them to do, and as soon as they can get staff out there to look at the situation, they will do that.
Now, what are the terms of reference for this study? What are they asked to do? And also, this issue really started in 2008 when we had the site plan conditions in place. Why has it taken so long for the board to finally retain an engineering firm to address these concerns?
Well, the concerns at present time aren't being raised by the board. They're being raised by the residents along Darlington Court. We were invited to the meeting with the town staff to review that issue and any relevant issues on the school site. The commitment or the offer of the board to retain the consultant at this point in time to review that was as a result of the staff meeting that took place at the school with the traffic department as well as ourselves, and it was seen as a means of reviewing and identifying the accuracy, if you will, of the report. So there was no incentive or indication of any need for the board to do an earlier study of any sort. The process has been designed and is being used according to the site plan requirements at the time, and all reports would indicate that everything that's occurring on the site is occurring as it is supposed to. Terms of reference will be to review the 2008 report. In fact, we've asked them to go back and look at the initial 2004, which was when the time the school was constructed, to make sure that all of the elements of the 2004 and 2008 reports as they did them are in fact in place, number one, being used as intended, and that their traffic estimates and counts. Again, they don't do a traffic count per se because the people aren't there yet or the cars aren't there yet. They will be verifying all of that data to make sure it falls within the parameters of their original assumptions.
Will they also be doing counts of parking on side streets?
At this point, that has not I haven't had the opportunity to talk to town staff to see whether or not they'd be interested in them doing that portion of it, but at this point in time, that's not an element that the board would normally direct them to do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cullen. Appreciate you being available. Madam Clerk.
The next delegate is Walter Galveo, again regarding the Darlington Trail on-street parking issue.
Mr. Galveo.
Actually, I want to change the actual process and jump in on my place, and I'll check on his place later on.
Mr. Medill, welcome. The council looks forward to new information.
I have some handouts as well.
Good evening, councillors and Mayor Burton. My name is Joe Medill, and I'm a resident of Darlington Trail. I'm here this evening to support the unanimous recommendation of the Community Services Committee to reinstate the no stopping provisions on Darlington Trail. First and foremost, this issue is clearly about safety versus convenience. The safety of the residents of Darlington Trail versus a more convenient kiss and ride option for a select group of Joshua Creek public school parents. Secondly, those that are opposed to this amendment are clearly masking their true motivations with false and misleading information to council and the Joshua Creek community. Thirdly, contrary to opposition points, there are clear and numerous precedents in support of this bylaw amendment throughout the town of Oakville. Much of council is already quite familiar with the history of what has brought us to this point, so I will be brief. The problem started soon after the 2008 extension to Joshua Creek Public School. All too often, parking by up to 25 cars at the same time was taking place on both sides of Darlington Trail at the same time, thus causing a myriad of safety and other related problems. What started as a nuisance evolved into serious safety concerns for the residents of Darlington Trail. In particular, we were concerned that the daily parking lot on the street provided a means for strangers and predators to hide in the crowd and scope out our properties, as well as the before and after school routines of residents and our children. On the advice and direction of Councillors Adams and Kahn, the residents of Darlington Trail undertook a process of community consultation, starting with the Halton District School Board and Joshua Creek Schools Principal Kant. Our expectation following these discussions was that there would be a campaign not dissimilar to what has taken place in other schools, where the parents of JCPS would be encouraged to use the kiss and ride procedures at the school. To our disappointment, JCPS finally issued some correspondence to parents via a newsletter dated November 4th, 2011, where Principal Kant instead encouraged parents to continue to use local streets instead of JCPS's own on-site drop-off facilities. The fact is that those that oppose this bylaw amendment have consistently misled council and the Joshua Creek community, and this misleading information has done nothing but divide our community. Frankly, we have been puzzled and concerned how and why this kiss and ride issue resulting from the school board's inaction has been distorted into an issue about elitism. At the November 7th council meeting, several opposition representatives implored council to consider the safety of children in the review of this proposed bylaw amendment. Facts are facts, and logic needs to come to the forefront of this debate. The fact is that the safest place for any child to be dropped off to school is clearly directly to the school itself. Those opposed to this bylaw have often suggested that there is a dangerous set of circumstances associated with the normal drop-off and pickup procedures. One has to seriously question this point, especially when, as of May 2011, School Board Trustee Kelly Amos indicated she had never heard of any traffic issue related to JCPS. That said, if this danger truly exists, then the responsibility for correcting this issue rests with JCPS and the school board, not with the town of Oakville, and certainly not at the expense of the safety of the residents of Darlington Trail. Furthermore, regarding misleading information, in the council meeting on November 7th, Puni Rahimi, the JCPS Parent Council, representing the JCPS Parent Council, stated very clearly that a solution involving the use of the west lot as a kiss and ride was in the works but not yet implemented. This claim was consistent with the commitment by the school board and to the site plan committee and to council. Yet 1 week later, Principal Kant indicated that the west lot option had long since been dismissed, and also at the CSE meeting of last Tuesday, Principal Kant further indicated she would strongly oppose any use of the west lot as a kiss and ride. This was, of course, a major surprise to all those present, given, from what we understand, a major reason for the school being granted the expansion in the first place was due to the assurances by the school board that the west lot would be transitioned to a second kiss and ride. In his presentation to council on November 7th, Michael Hawkins was clearly misleading. This slide, for example, holds several misrepresentations. Contrary to his claim, the residents of Darlington Trail have never opposed the use of sidewalks of Darlington Trail or the access pathway by parents and students walking to JCPS, nor did they ever ask the town to close this access. Furthermore, one has to question the presentation of Mr. Hawkins as truly representing the Northeast Oakville Residents Association when his comments appear to be in direct contradiction to an information piece published by NERA entitled "Please Park at Our Schools by Obeying the Parking Zoning." I also want to draw your attention to the following flyer, which I've just, there we go, which was handed out to JCPS parents and distributed in the streets surrounding Darlington Trail on Friday by those opposing this bylaw amendment, a copy of which is in your package. Once again, this piece contains several misleading statements, certainly far too numerous to mention in my brief time this evening. That said, the careful read indicates that the author and those that have actively distributed this material have a clear intent to throw a whole bunch of blatantly false and misleading information at the Joshua Creek community in order to create disharmony and redirect anger towards fellow neighbors rather than towards the poor planning of the school board where this frustration should be directed. You will hear more later regarding the use of Darlington Trail as a convenience factor. Those that oppose this bylaw amendment have tried to argue that the staff's findings support their case. But in fact, please listen, if we have a few minutes here, to what Commissioner Bloomer had to say at the council meeting of November 7th. If I can get to this.
I think, as the mayor alluded to, we have to be careful that as much as the street can allow for it in terms of its design, the school also has a role to play in ensuring that perhaps using Darlington Trail could be used as a convenience, but the delegations we're hearing from today, it's almost like it's a requirement for this parking to occur in order for the school to function properly, and that creates some difficulties in our mind to think that it's a fundamental aspect of providing service to the school. So from that perspective, we certainly would find it problematic.
Staff is clearly not in agreement that our street is needed as a school kiss and ride. Finally, I would like to address those that oppose this amendment's assertion that Darlington Trail is asking for special treatment and that other tertiary streets near schools will demand the same. The reality is what's happening on Darlington Trail is excessive and atypical. The problem with the current situation stems from the school board and JCPS's unwillingness to deal with the situation on site as it committed to in 2008. This document is clearly focusing on a simple, not in my backyard argument. While we respect and encourage robust consultation process with all interested stakeholders, we do not support rule by the mob. The role of council is to hear all sides to determine whether the primary stakeholders have a case that warrants an exception. Therefore, although we were disappointed that this issue was referred back to the CSC in November, we thank and commend council for conducting a thorough investigation of this issue before reaching a final decision. As such, I would formally like to submit to council this petition in support of the proposed bylaw, signed in person and electronically by almost 200 Oakville residents. It is important to note that these signatures come from Oakville residents that reside in every ward throughout Oakville. Their signatures and support for this bylaw amendment stems from the premise that poor planning by the Halton District School Board should not be the responsibility of the town or the residents of Oakville. To conclude, the issue at hand is about safety versus convenience, and Darlington Trail residents respectfully ask that council recognize this fact. We are entitled to enjoy our street without fear. Although we respect that many parents of the JCPS are also concerned about the safety of their children, the safest option is to physically drop them directly in front of the school with the supervision of a designated parking officials on school property. Any alternative is frankly irresponsible, and the argument that Darlington Trail should be an alternate kiss and ride is both unfair and misleading. As such, I ask that you vote in favor of your committee's recommendation to formally institute no stopping provisions on Darlington Trail. Thank you.
Thank you for your information. Council, do you have questions for the delegation? Thank you for your information, sir. Madam Clerk.
The next delegation is Lisa Cesario.
Ms. Cesario, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors and Mr. Mayor. My name is Lisa Cesario, and I'm a resident of Darlington Trail, and I'm here to speak in support of reinstating the no stopping signage on Darlington Trail. As a resident of Darlington Trail, we have been living for some years now with the congestion on our street as a result of this unsafe kiss and ride that is taking place on our street during the drop-off and pickup times. Thank you. For Joshua Creek Public School. As you know, the community of Joshua Creek is on high alert as a result of the daytime break-ins that have been taking place. As a result of this kiss and ride, we have not been able to fully implement the Halton Regional Police safety tips as it relates to suspicious vehicles. Point for clarification, we are not suspicious of the neighborhood vehicles coming onto our street. It is the street congestion that allows for these potential outside suspicious vehicles and predators to go unnoticed during these times. What is really concerning me as a parent is that I'm fearful that it is only a matter of time that a child will be injured on our street during these times, and I can no longer stand by and wait for this to happen. As you know, laws and bylaws are a necessity in every community as they create a sense of order and safety within our community to live by. What is really taking place on Darlington Trail is that the JCPS Kiss and Ride has developed as a result of some parents choosing to avoid the current system in place at Joshua Creek Public School. These parents have put convenience ahead of safety when using Darlington Trail. As was mentioned to the committee last week, the engineering report in 2008 supported that all drop-off and pickup should be taking place on the property of JCPS. In this report, Darlington Trail was one street specifically mentioned that consideration for prohibitions on the street may be required as a result of the issue of the kiss and ride practice that were already taking place at that time. There has been debate in the last committee meeting that Darlington Trail is just like any other street. However, there are many references and supporting facts that speak otherwise, and my husband, Tony Cesario, will address this in more detail during his presentation this evening. The issue on Darlington Trail has escalated over time, and we as residents are at the point of feeling enough is enough and action is required. Our position remains to make Darlington Trail safe for children walking to and from school. There has been claims made at council, committee meetings, and in this recent flyer that Darlington Trail is looking for special privileges and does not want the street to be used at all. This is not the case. The signage will only add restrictions to the street during the school drop-off and pickup times from September to June. It will still allow the street to support the community activities it was always meant for. Let's remember that this signage is the only solution that has proven to work where we had a few short weeks where the kiss and ride behavior was curbed. Our street returned to what it was intended for, which is to support children and families walking to and from school. When the signage was removed, the poor behavior only resumed. For the next 3 minutes, the video footage will clearly illustrate the magnitude of the issue on Darlington Trail. As you are watching this video, you will clearly see why this kiss and ride is unsafe and purely being used by parents for convenience over safety. There was mention made that these pictures are not recent. We can gladly provide the dates for each picture taken. We carefully reviewed, and over half of these pictures were taken within the past 3 weeks. All of the winter shots were actually taken on February 4th, 2012. And many of these show the unsafe practices taking place. We have witnessed several instances where children are not being safely dropped off. They are being dropped right in the middle of the street in cases. You will see children running across the street on the blind corner with no parent helping them. Cars are stopping in the middle of the road and conducting social conversations versus ensuring they are driving safely. Cars are passing the stopped cars on the blind curve to get around those cars as they clearly don't have the patience to even wait on Darlington Trail. You will see a car actually do a 3-point turn on the blind corner. In the afternoon, the activity brings in the element of a parent not willing to park and wait in line. Many cars are circling the street to avoid waiting so they can pick up their child within the middle of the street. There was commentary made that the drivers are being respectful of the homes. You will see many shots where driveways are being blocked. All in all, these driving practices clearly show that these children are at seriously risk of being injured. As a parent of 2 children, I have to drop my children off at 2 different schools. One is Iroquois Ridge High School and the other is St. Mildred's. It means waiting at line at 2 different locations. It adds 30 minutes to my commute to and from work each day. That is just part of being a parent. There was mention made in this street flyer that it is only 15 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. Darlington Trail should absorb this. Again, I raise the question, if it is for such a short period of time, then why don't these parents just wait in line at the school? If parking is their issue, then all of us must account and make extra time in the morning to get one of those spots, as I'm required at my schools. There have been comments made to the volume on Darlington Trail has reduced with the institution of the improvements at the school under Mrs. Kant's leadership. While I acknowledge that there have been efforts made, I do not believe these parents using Darlington Trail are consistently participating in these. As if this was the case, the traffic would be gone, and it is clearly not. Again, I have to stress, these parents are using Darlington Trail for convenience over safety. If this signage is not reinstated, how does the town explain to those parents that are waiting in line at JCPS, or even better, walking every day? Are we here to reward the behavior of a selected group of parents that are choosing convenience over the safety of their children? In closing, I can't stress enough that the safety of our children should be of the utmost priority. We have the opportunity to do something now that will protect them, and it was shown when the signage was in place that the only solution to stop this unsafe and poor behavior is to reinstate the no stopping signage and parking prohibitions strictly during these school drop-off and pickup times. Thank you.
Thank you for your information. Any questions for the delegation? Thank you very much, ma'am. Madam Clerk.
The next delegation is Ivanka Miksik.
Ms. Miksik, thank you very much for coming.
Thank
Council
you.
looks forward to your information.
Good evening, councilors and Mr. Mayor. My name is Ivanka Miksik, and I'm a resident of Darlington Trail. To keep it short, I do agree with what Lisa has presented and Joe and what my neighbors will present after me. As residents and stakeholders of Darlington Trail, we have experienced daily congestion and unsafe kiss and ride practices by the parents of Joshua Creek Public School students. We have expressed our desire for a safe environment for our families and followed all community guidelines to have the no parking stopping signs installed on Darlington Trail. As original residents of Darlington Trail, we are incensed by the arguments of those opposed to the signage, which refer to buying a property backing onto a school. We have been told repeatedly by some of the same parents that clog our narrow street twice a day, "What do you expect? You back onto a school." Yes, while true that we back onto a school and we were aware of this when purchasing our home 11 years ago, we did not expect our street to be used as a parking lot and a kiss and ride for that school. When we purchased our home, the school to be built was for a capacity of 608, and since the expansion, that number has grown to 850 and rising. The process of getting the approval of the no parking and stopping restriction signage was one we invested in personally with our time and effort. With the help and direction of our ward's counselor, we followed the town's guidelines. We knocked on the doors of our Darlington Trail residents. We spoke to our neighbors on Darlington Trail and dropped off our information pamphlets, which described the unsafe conditions, provided the voting procedure, and timing of the vote. We spoke to many of our Darlington Trail residents personally. All of this effort resulted in accomplishing our goal of safety-proofing our street and allowing for the safe passage of pedestrian and vehicle traffic. The vote was clearly in favor of the no stopping and parking signage as it was passed and the signs went up. The only solution to this ongoing problem is to reinstate the no parking and stopping signage on Darlington Trail. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your information. Questions? Thank you, ma'am.
The next delegation is Nino Mixic.
Nino Mixic, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. I have some handouts here that I'd like to distribute. I'm going to make it quick. The package that you have with the pictures are just some photos selected from what was done this afternoon during afternoon pickup at the school. And today the weather was pretty nice. We had a little bit of snow on the street, but just to give you an idea of what it was like this afternoon. For those of you that haven't been there, that is a bit of a slope, comes down that hill. And even though today was pretty nice, the snow was melting, it gets pretty icy and slippery down that slope there. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the fresh look at the street. Any questions? Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
The next delegation is Kristen Heyer.
Ms. Heyer, I hope that's remotely close. Welcome.
And I have some handouts.
No problem.
Thank you. Good evening, councilors and mayor. My name is Kristen Heyer. We own a home at 2367 Darlington Trail, and I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4 children ages 4 through 14, the youngest which attends Joshua Creek Public School. It's very clear that within every street in Oakville, it's been planned or reviewed with the understanding that there may be an impact on the street from traffic associated with nearby schools. The fact remains that depending on factors such as volume, the number of younger children living further from the school, the road configurations, and the ease of access to the school from other streets or paths, that normal parking restrictions may have to be amended in response to the actual use by parents. Many streets have amended bylaws to create no stopping zones, as demonstrated by the schedule from the town of Oakville, which is Schedule 7, Section 5 of bylaw number 2012-015. You should have a copy of that came with the package. Contrary to those opposed by the bylaw amendment, there are several examples of additional restrictions being added on roads near schools to better serve the needs of the residents in these areas. If we look at a map of southeast Oakville, for example, There are several streets surrounding schools with restrictions to keep school traffic off of those streets to protect the residents. Several notable streets with parking restrictions, which are quite similar to Darlington Trail. The first one is Durham. Durham Street is located across from Oakville Trafalgar High School. It has a very similar layout to Darlington Trail with a blind curve. It has the exact signage which Darlington Trail requests of no parking on one side with no stopping during school drop-off and pickup times, as you noted on the sign. The next one is Albion Avenue. Albion Avenue is also a curved street, although with less residents than Darlington Trail and a little wider. Albion Avenue actually accesses 2 schools and a park with path access. But yet Albion Avenue, which runs behind Oakville Trafalgar and Maple Grove Elementary, no parking is allowed on either side of this street from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. The last street is David Avenue. This is probably one of the more recent streets, as late in 2008, no parking and no stopping signs were being challenged by the parents of Lynbrook School, despite the fact that Lynbrook School was scheduled to be closed. The parents argued that it'd be safer and more convenient to still continue to use David Avenue, and they asked that the signs be removed. The 6 residents of David Avenue, as the stakeholders were polled, and they requested that you add these signs. That request was granted despite the fact that there was a signatured petition of 58 other residents that wanted to use that road. So the signs remain in effect. No other residents on any other streets were polled in this process, and current councilors Elger, Bird, Dudek, Kahn, Adams, Lapworth, Johnston, and Mayor Burton, as well as former Councilor Oliver, voted in favor of supporting the residents of David Avenue and keeping the parking restrictions in place. The same process and procedures followed by the residents of David Avenue were followed by the residents of Darlington Trail for the same reasons. The precedent has been set and demonstrates that Council has supported these rare instances where residents have concerns about traffic and safety. When issues have arisen with traffic, the school associated with the traffic concerns has been asked and required to manage their traffic on site, as it should be. I have passed around, because this was not included in my presentation, I have passed around an aerial map of the area in question where Darlington Trail is. And it's important for you to know that right around the corner from Darlington Trail is a town parking lot for Pinery Park with approximately 35 parking spaces. During the time when we've been trying to petition the town to get the cars off our street, that parking lot still remains empty, yet it's just a few steps away from Darlington Trail. It's been argued that the path is not always accessible due to mud, and the question has come up whether you pave that path. That's a separate issue. Most days that path is clear. If you can't use the path, if you look on the map, there is sidewalk access without crossing a street if you park in that lot to walk around and use Darlington Trail as a pedestrian walkway and get to the school. But on a quick side note, I'm at home in the morning with my young son, and I watch these drop-offs each morning. It's important to note that many of the drop-offs occur after 8:40 a.m. in the morning. This morning, there were 7 alone, because I watched. Some of them as late as 8:45. The school bell rings at 8:40. At that time, I'm also walking from the school. There is very little wait in the parking lot in front of the school, but at 8:40, after that time, your child is actually late, and according to the school procedures, you're supposed to go to the front office if there isn't a staff member out in the back and sign in your child. Because after 8:40, everybody's inside the building. So people are choosing to drop off their children late to walk to school on an empty playground and empty the doors sometime around 8:45. And this is also a common occurrence that has not been brought up yet. School representatives are not here, but that's another issue that they need to deal with on site. With that said, my other 3 children do attend St. Mildred's Lightbourne, so I need to get across town and get across school. Most of that student body does not live within walking distance, and with a student body of a similar size, there's often very little waiting. We are clearly sent the message that we are not to use off-grounds parking, and I respect those wishes. We are not even allowed to use the grounds of the closed Lynbrook School, even though there's an open parking lot. There is never an assembly where we are not urged to get our cars. If we are parked there, it will be ticketed to remove our cars as soon as possible. So prior to moving to Oakville, we've attended many other schools, and we have never, ever been asked to use side streets. We've always been told, never use the side streets, park on site, respect your neighbors. And we are to make arrangements, whether it be carpooling or whatever's necessary, to make sure that we can do that, because it's the safest and school activity belongs on school property. Lastly, most disheartening to me has been walking down the catwalk and watching people slip flyers, hiding it when they see me coming, the looks that I get. I wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't really important, but it has put me in a position as being an outcast at Joshua Creek Public School. And if that's what I need to do, that's what I need to do. But I am disheartened to see those petitions, or whatever they were sending out, the flyers, people folding them quickly, people whispering, dodging around the corner when they see me coming. You have to be there to fully understand. So I'm urging you here tonight to please reinstate the no parking and no stopping signs in Darlington Trail and restore our street to a normal traffic flow.
Thank you very much for your information and your plea. Any questions? Thank you. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
Is Tony Cesario?
Mr. Cesario, welcome. And council looks forward to your information.
Good evening, councilors, Mr. Mayor. My name is Tony Cesario. I'm a resident of Darlington Trail, and I'm here to provide further supporting arguments for reinstatement of the signage on Darlington Trail. For those of you here today who may not be intimately familiar with the streets surrounding the school, here is a view of the school and the proximity of Darlington Trail, which highlights why it has been the only street identified and used for this unsafe kiss and ride. So let's examine the problem visually. As you can see that most of the parking takes place near the walkway, and as you get further down the street on Darlington, Parents Don't Park, most of the activity that is taking place is kiss and ride activity. In the afternoon, they actually loop around the street at pickup time because even on Darlington Trail, they don't want to get in line. This blind corner becomes very congested, as you've heard in previous discussions. I won't get into that. It is the existence of this blind corner plus the layout of the driveways on the street that ensures that safety can only be obtained via no stopping provisions on both sides of Darlington Trail. It should be evident by the slide that any attempt to institute no parking on one side will not solve the problem. There was a claim made in this flyer circulated to surrounding streets in the neighborhood that if this signage is reinstated, that it will push the traffic to their street. I am not a traffic engineer, so I have to evaluate this claim through the eyes of the parents that are using Darlington Trail, remembering that this is a behavior and a mindset based on convenience that is bringing them to Darlington Trail. So let's first examine Bluestream more closely as this has been debated as the most likely next street at risk. At most, some parents may park on Bluestream and walk to school. But as soon as they get partway along Bluestream towards Pinery, they have lost their convenience that Darlington Trail was providing them. At that point, they may as well either park at the school or at Pinery Park. On the other side of Bluestream, nearest Arrowhead, it is unlikely they're going to use this option for parking because they are now about 30 seconds away from the school's kiss and ride, which again removes the convenience and avoids the school's alleged congested kiss and ride. Remember that most of this traffic on Darlington is kiss and ride behavior, right in front of the walkway, as these parents have a false sense of security that their children are safe because they are not dropping them off from a location that involves walking on a sidewalk. Bluestream does not offer this, nor any other surrounding street. Again, this is why this issue only exists on Darlington. Now let's examine Bon Echo, Presqu'île, and the other side of Bluestream and Rideau. Bon Echo and Presqu'île are very close to the school, and these parents are not using it now. Why would they move to this location? They may as well get in line at the JCPS Kiss and Ride. Remember, it's about convenience. Pinery, Clearwater, and Rockingham. They're also talking about these streets. I don't understand why. There is already no parking on one side of Pinery, and both Pinery and Rockingham are main through roads. And again, we're talking about convenience. There's no convenient way to drop off as a kiss and ride on these streets. Lastly, Clearwater and Rockingham are further than Pinery Park. So if parking is their desire, Pinery Park is closer. Kristen discussed that. That yellow circle is exactly where the parking lot is. I just can't see Clearwater and Rockingham being an option, or Pinery for that matter. So I do need to cover off another point, and that is important for clarification. This is in relation to the fact that this evening is about Darlington Trail and not the broader issues that are being debated between the town and Halton District School Board. While we are sympathetic to their unresolved issues, we please ask to focus on our problems happening on Darlington Trail. Again, it is clear that this issue has escalated on Darlington Trail as a result of the school expansion and the lack of implementation of an additional kiss and ride on school property. After living with this issue since the school expansion, residents near the walkway of Darlington Trail reached out to Councillor Adams and Conn for guidance. It was recommended to meet with the school principal, school board trustee, staff member Adam Bell, and both Councillor Adams and Conn for an open discussion. In this first meeting, the school trustee and principal did not show. A second meeting was arranged, and took place in May 2011. At this meeting, all those originally invited attended, except again the school trustee Kelly Amos. During this meeting, the issue was reviewed and a number of potential solutions were discussed. I would like to point out that one of the requests the residents made was for Mrs. Can to come out in the morning and at pickup and witness the activity of our Darlington Trail, and also encourage those parents to use the JCPS Kiss and Ride. She made it clear that she could not get directly involved in issues off school property, as this is out of her scope of authority. She also stated in this meeting that in her experience at a prior school she worked at, that no stopping prohibitions would be the only way to successfully curb a behavior issue. This is one of the main reasons we move forward with the request to amend this bylaw. It has been raised that JCPS parent associations were not notified and made aware of this meeting or discussions that transpired. We are not clear why Mrs. Kant did not notify her school parents association. This was out of our control and it was not our place as residents of the street to do so. Again, we followed the due process required. It has been made clear repeatedly that the residents of Darlington Trail are the affected and only stakeholders. We can't stress this point enough. In further meetings with council and the committee last year, there has been a debate on whether the opening of the west parking lot for the additional kiss and ride has been on and off the table. There have been claims made that this still was under consideration at the school, and they were still attempting to implement this since 2008, which you've heard before. I'll try to skip through this part. However, it was learned last week that at the committee meeting that Mrs. Kant. At this meeting, Mrs. Kant is strongly opposing the opening of the additional west parking lot, kiss and ride on school property. It is clear that the councillors are extremely frustrated with this situation, and as a result of the promises not being fulfilled following the school expansion in 2008. While it is unfortunate these issues have not been resolved on school property, I must reinforce this evening that it's not about the solutions needed on the school property. It is about dealing with and resolving the issues at hand on Darlington Trail. Mrs. Kant last week asked the committee to delay the decision on Darlington Trail until the traffic survey is completed. Yet she has made it very clear numerous times that her scope of authority resides strictly on school property. It is not her place to make such a recommendation on an issue of signage off school property. We have already had a number of traffic surveys confirming that issue on Darlington Trail is real. Any further traffic surveys will not address the real needs of the school. It would be of more value to reinstate the signage, give it time for full implementation, and then conduct the traffic survey to really understand what are the current needs of the JCPS school. We know from last fall We know from last fall when the signage was up that the behavior was curbed. Despite all the efforts implemented by Mrs. Kant when the signs were removed, the kiss and ride has returned to unsafe levels. As Mrs. Kant alluded to the committee meeting last week, we are now a society of drivers. Her position remains, she is encouraging walking to and from school, but again it is clear she can't control the behavior of her parents, of the JCPS parents that wish to drive versus walk. In closing, please reinstate the signage to stop the unsafe kiss and ride and address the school and the school board related issues separately. Thank you.
Thank you for your information. Council, any questions? Thank you very much, sir. Madam Clerk?
The next delegation is Walter Galveo.
Mr. Galveo, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening, councilors and mayor.
That might be almost too close to the mic.
Is that good enough? Okay.
You can stand up.
First of all, I did want to state that I am a Darlington Trail resident and I do support the no stopping bylaw signs. And I do agree with all the other fellow residents. I'm not going to repeat myself as Mayor Burton stated. It's not required. I do want to share a story though of when it comes to the issue when we state that there are criminal acts that are being occurring in our neighborhood. And right now we have what's called a crime alert in the Joshua Creek area. As Mayor Burton and Councillor Tom Adams were in attendance of a meeting with the actual community at large where we invited Carla Draper and a few other individuals from the Halton Police Board. There was very good suggestions that were brought forth to the community. And one thing that we are stating when it comes to the safety, not only for the children who are crossing the street, the children who are using the appropriate sidewalks, but also for the safety of the homes within the area as well. As you see in the slide before you, on point number 2, it states basically that the entries occurred during daylight hours. They attend the area prior to the entries and to scout potential targets. What we're stating is during these times between peak hours of the drop-offs in the morning and in the afternoons, it's very difficult as a resident to determine who is the parent there for their children and also who is the potential predator targeting the community. In point number 6, it says, how protect yourself and your neighbors by being vigilant and aware of what is happening in your neighborhood. It's very difficult to control that when you have so many vehicles that are coming in and out on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. Point number 7, police are requesting that if residents observe any suspicious activity to contact police immediately. Report the suspicious circumstances. Well, it's very difficult to do that if, as of recent, we're actually having people coming into our community in their vehicles, taking tabs of how many people are actually using the facility for kiss and ride or drop-offs that are just potentially just hanging outside of their front doors. It's gone to the point, to be quite honest, where children over the ages of 13 are actually fearful of being in their homes by themselves because they see what's going on and they are not comfortable being home on their own. Then on point number 8, where it says, police further request that residents do not confront or approach any person they believe to be involved in this activity. Make good observations and call police. Pune actually recommended at the last Community Service Committee meeting that one of the parents act as an officer, quote unquote. To be honest, it's not a parent's job or role to be acting as a particular authority. And secondly, it specifically says that God forbid she approach someone who was a perpetrator, who knows what could transpire after that point. So further to this bulletin, I actually requested for Carla Draper, as she offered her services, to come over to my residence to give me suggestions or advice on how to better secure my home. Some of the comments were to get different types of locks to bolt in the front doors. Others were suggestions, keep your lights on at night, which we do all the time. I've changed now to a different monitoring company where it's actually a private company who does surveillance 24/7. The reason I'm stating that comment is the vehicle you're seeing backing out of the driveway, that's actually my residence. The interesting fact though, that's not my vehicle. That's actually one of the parents using my private property as a means to be dropping off their children for their convenience as opposed to my children's safety and the safety of the community. If you look further, the children who are properly using the sidewalk, that the parents did not use the kiss and ride or the park, Darlington as a parking lot, actually had to stop in order to allow the vehicle to reverse out of my driveway. Furthermore, I received a call from my surveillance company that this was taking place. And immediately I asked how long this person was actually on the driveway in terms of upon the time they arrived to upon the time they reversed out of the vehicle, out of the driveway, sorry. And I then stated for them to cancel the actual call to the police, because you have a right to call, or else if after 2 cancellations you start getting charged for cancellation of a police call. Now, what if that was an actual perpetrator thinking of robbing my home? That would have been a bad mistake on my part. I would have actually jeopardized the security of my own children, because I have a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old and a wife who sometimes works out of their home office. And I don't think it's fair that a parent has decided to take upon these actions to, again, use my private property as a means for kiss and ride for the convenience of themselves. The next item to also discuss, again, some of the slides I just passed were discussed before. It is very critical to mention that when these parents drop off their children at the kiss and ride at the actual walkway at the end of the boulevard, this walkway has very tall tree shrubs which are beautifully planted by Chris Mark and his team. And what happens is when they turn around the bend down the walkway, that child is no longer in sight of that parent. Who was to know that there'd be a perpetrator at the end of that walkway, or a predator or a pedophile wanting to do something to any one of these children? The school board has specifically stated that they can only take responsibility once the child is on school property, not on town property or public property. So that is a very key component to remember, that there is no crossing guards, there is no Halton District School Board visible employees monitoring this Darlington Trail access whatsoever. The next item I would like to speak about is the NEORA, which stands for Northeast Oakville Residents Association. As an association, I really think that they actually represent the community as a whole, people with the same beliefs and philosophies, and bring it forward to the public forum and discuss openly. Whenever there's issues with the town, we kind of convene together, and we state it through one voice and one voice only. Mr. Hawkins, actually, who claims that he's vice president of the association, I've asked him on numerous occasions to actually join such a great association representing our community. I was told by him when this first transpired back on November 7, 2011, at the last council meeting, that the fee was $25. I've asked for a form to be sent to my attention so my family can now be registered and we can have the open line of communication. Since then, I've not received this form. And the other point that's very important to mention is that under the CSAE, which stands for the Canadian Standard Association of Executives, they oversee all associations. An association is not a viable and active association unless they have an annual general meeting, which the last one that took place for this association was on February 24, 2010. There are members that pay annual fees to this association. And number 3, there's an actual formal board of directors. I, on numerous accounts, as soon as this transpired and it kind of blew up, we contacted or attempted to contact John Pollock, who's listed as the president of this association on the Oakville website. I've not received any phone calls or any emails. The only emails I've ever received are from Michael Hawkins. The reason I'm saying all this is that I feel if Mr. Hawkins has an issue of personal matter regarding this issue, it should be represented as himself as an individual and not hiding behind an association. As mentioned by Kristen, that this community is divided upon this issue, and I literally hope with all these parents here today and with the support of Councillor Khan and Councillor Adams, we can form one association, one voice, and an open line of communication. As soon as this erupted back in November 7, 2011, we were not present. Councillor Knoll, Algar, and Dudek asked some very great questions that evening. But one question that was not raised, where are the residents of Darlington Trail? Had we been here, we would have been actually able to formalize a presentation set forth to council representing some of the facts that we're representing here today. When Mayor Burton, on his last sentence, stated that, are you sure you want to remove the signs? Are you sure you don't want to defer it or just leave them up until further investigation? It did affect the community. I myself live right beside the walkway. I have been cursed right in front of my children, and it's not good for the community. We need to figure this out tonight, and tonight is when you have the power to do so. Do this for the sake of the community. Let's put this behind us and move on, and as it's stated in your website, make Oakville a livable community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your information, Mr. Galveo. Any questions? Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, next delegation.
Is Jennifer Medill?
Mrs. Medill, welcome. Council looks forward to your new information, or any new information.
Good evening, councillors and Mayor Burton. My name is Jennifer Medill, and I'm a Darlington Trail resident. As you consider tonight whether to support a recommendation to council to reinstate parking prohibitions on Darlington Trail, I would respectfully like to raise some questions to help clarify this issue and set the grounds for a decision that's in the best long-term interest of our community and in keeping with your mandate. First off, what's the town's role in this situation? Did the town create this problem? No. The onus for taking a leadership role in addressing this situation from start to finish should be on the Halton District School Board, not on the town. By extension, is it reasonable or fair that the social or political cost of any decision taken in this matter should be allowed to fall on the town of Oakville? No. Has the town referred matters such as this one directly back to the Halton District School Board? In similar cases? Yes. All said, the town has a responsibility to its residents and their concerns, especially those stemming from town-created problems. In this case, as long as the town is prepared to handle this issue for the school board, why should it do more than the bare minimum to address the parents' issues? The next thing I want to point out to you is that you are being asked by Joshua Creek parents to effectively extend the school's kiss and ride to Darlington Trail. The parent lobby would have you believe that the use of our street is a must to manage the school's numbers. But is this based on needs or wants? Let's look at the evidence. The town's staff report just produced indicates that there is no problem at all with morning drop-off at Joshua Creek. So why are there still 18 to 20 cars still using our street for this purpose every morning? Do they really need to be there, or do they simply want to be there? Clearly, no stopping signage is necessary to redirect these parents back to the school's kiss and ride. Regarding the after-school pickup time, the town's staff report provides no support for claims by the parent lobby that the situation is dire. Instead of finding that the congestion is severe and unacceptable, the staff report simply states that there is a level of congestion, that cars spill off school property onto the street, and the parking lot is full. In fact, wait times in the kiss and ride were not even analyzed, which one would assume would have been done if there had been something remarkable to report. In the absence of this, I can tell you that my personal observations of the pickup line after school show a wait time of well under 10 minutes. In fact, here's a picture I took of the street in front of the school at around 3:20 p.m. last Monday on my way home. Here's another one taken last Friday. As you can see, there was almost no queue on the street, and the congestion in the school area appeared to be managed well and operating normally. Here's another picture taken on Friday from the traffic circle looking onto Arrowhead. The parent lobby says that Arrowhead is completely backed up. No, it's not. The congestion issue is important because the parent lobby would have you believe that it justifies spillage onto other streets, most excessively Darlington Trail. My pictures show otherwise. Even if you say these are isolated examples, let me ask you, how much congestion do you consider normal? Similar-sized schools in wards all across Oakville experience queues which routinely spill off school properties and onto front-facing streets. Wait time and congestion in these situations is normal and accepted, albeit reluctantly, by many parents. Regardless, at the end of the day, parents' and residents' anecdotes and testimonies, while interesting, are not a sound basis for good decision-making. None of us are traffic engineers. What you can and should rely on is the staff report that was commissioned and undertaken by professionals in the engineering and construction department. And their recent report does not provide any compelling evidence of a need for parents to use Darlington Trail as a school kiss and ride. Councillors, are you willing to make a decision today that rewards those not patient enough to wait less than 10 minutes in line at Joshua Creek by enabling them to have an express lane on Darlington Trail at the expense of street residents, many of whom pick up their children at schools where wait times of up to 15 minutes are considered the norm? Oh, and if you're wondering where the congestion was last Monday after school, here it is. This is a picture I took after I passed the school and rounded the corner from Bluestream onto Darlington Trail. There were 12 to 15 cars using the street for school pickups, not accounting for those who'd already left. As my first picture showed, they should and could easily have used the properly designated school kiss and ride for this purpose. Again, needs versus wants, all rooted in a convenience mentality. The last point I want to make relates to the consequences of the decision you will collectively make tonight as a council. If you vote to deny signage, and therefore keep things the way they are, whether you intend to or not, you will be effectively sanctioning the school community to use Darlington Trail as a legitimate extension to the official kiss and ride at Joshua Creek School. The safety, security, and orderliness of our street will be compromised forever. However, a decision to support street signage would have a positive deterrent effect on driving activity. For some, it will simply become faster to walk. And if children are within the walking limits of school, they should be walking. Simple as that. With no signage, it's open season for drivers on an already jammed, narrow street with a blind corner. Deterring driving, not creating and endorsing additional spaces off-site for this to grow, should be the goal. As well, a decision to support signage on Darlington is in alignment with the town's strategic plan goal of enhancing our social environment, specifically to enhance the well-being of our community and promote community wellness. As Principal Kant confirmed last Tuesday at the CSC meeting, more parents are driving their kids to school now than ever before. This cultural shift is a major source of the problem and needs to be addressed, and you have an opportunity to affect behavior positively in this regard. Finally, a decision by Council to support the parking prohibitions on Darlington Trail will act as a powerful catalyst for change at the school. Effectively enforced signage on our street will result in pressure being redirected to the Halton District School Board, who rightfully should be dealing with this issue. The school board can and should take measures to encourage and create a walking culture at Joshua Creek, as well as remediate any valid traffic concerns brought before it by parents of Joshua Creek. Unfortunately, the school board has historically not lived up to its commitments as it pertains to Joshua Creek School. With this kind of resistance, how can the situation on Darlington Trail hope to improve? Clearly, the only way to get action is with signage. Furthermore, given the history, we feel strongly that Darlington Trail should absolutely not have to wait for the school board to study and eventually, if ever, take action. In closing, Council, this is an issue where you must distinguish needs versus wants, who has caused the problem, and how they can be made to address it. There are solutions, but the school board, not the town of Oakville, needs to be responsible for addressing the situation. And Oakville needs to draw the line now, starting with reinstating school-related parking prohibitions on Darlington Trail. That, in our opinion, is how you enforce accountability. Fundamentally, Joshua Creek parents cannot nor should not expect town council to shift the burden of their issue with the school board onto hapless town residents to bear. By engaging the school board already, the town staff has taken a step in the right direction. But ultimately, parking prohibitions are the only way to hasten a long-term resolution to this issue. We encourage you to make a forward-thinking decision that will not only fulfill your strategic mandate as a town, but force innovative solutions to be found, including hopefully a cultural shift towards healthier behaviors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Medill, for your information. Questions? Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk?
The next delegation is George Wyatt.
Mr. Wyatt, welcome. You have up to 10 minutes. Council looks forward to any new information.
Good evening, Your Worship and Councillors. And first off, I want to thank the Council for your attention this evening. I made a comment to Councillor Dudek the other night when she mentioned how many times issues around this school have been brought forward, and I thought she was being very kind in her remarks because it seems to be quite a lot that this happens. I know that we've been involved. I'm here to support the bylaw and the residents. I'm also a resident of Darlington Trail. And it's a bit unfortunate that we've seen a little bit of acrimony develop during this whole discussion. It's really not great for the community, but it's part of the natural debating process, of course. And we think there's an opportunity here to actually move forward and have the community come together. There's been Jennifer has just referred to the fact there's been suggestions of additional traffic study. Well, we lived a traffic experience and an experiment, and it proved that over the few weeks that we did have the signs up was a remarkable shift in behavior. The question that stems from that is, did that affect other residents nearby? Did you hear any complaints? We certainly didn't. And I'd ask the councillors if they heard any complaints, but we certainly didn't. And we don't want to displace the problem. We want to try and solve the problem. You've seen the photos from today, and they were passed out earlier about quite a number of them about the congestion. And today was a nice day, as Nino mentioned. And when I left this evening to come over to the council meeting, the snow that had melted has now frozen and turned to ice. Darlington Trail is a tertiary street. It is not a primary street for snow clearing. And as a result, if you are to vote not to reinstate this bylaw and put the signs back up, I fear that what you're going to have to do is readdress the whole issue of your snowplow operations. Because if we have slippery streets tomorrow morning, which we will, what will prevent cars from slipping and sliding? And when you saw the congestion from the photos today, what kind of impact could that have on property and persons? There's also consequences if you make the decision to say yes. And as Jennifer mentioned, to push that obligation back onto the school board to actually fulfill some of the commitments that they've made over the years. Yes, we have been frustrated. And yes, we think not all times they've been forthright. But they have an opportunity to improve, and we'll welcome that. And I think at the end it provides a great case study, if you will, for going forward in Oakville. We've learned a lot through this experience, and I thank God we have a council that represents the people here and makes representative decisions, because certainly we haven't seen that from our trustee, which is unfortunate. But thankfully we have another opportunity to come and plead to you to make sure that we are heard in our motions going forward. So again, I hope you support the change and have the signs go back up. It would be great for our community, and it would also be great for, I think, the whole process affecting the school. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your information, sir. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Clerk?
Next delegation is Michael Hawkins, Vice Chairperson of the Northeast Oakville Residents Association.
Welcome, Mr. Hawkins. We look forward to your information.
Thank you.
There?
Yep. Great. Thank you. Hi, I'm Michael Hawkins. I'm the Vice Chairperson of the Northeast Oakville Residents Association, a resident of the Joshua Creek community, and a parent at Joshua Creek Public School. A few items. There's not unanimous consent on Darlington Trail for the proposal. Never has been. There's been a clutch of residents who have spoken tonight. They do not speak for the entire street. There's an issue also at a committee meeting regarding the status of the school site. I informed Councillors Kahn and Adams of that on October 14th. The committee should have been told that by their co-members at the October 25th meeting. I'd like to thank the Council for its decision last November. This is the direction that you gave, to get a new report from staff, to consult with the school board, examine the use of the Pinery Park Trail and parking lot, and have the school board attend the committee meeting. All of that happened. The next few slides are from the town's own Department of Engineering, the town's own professional experts. The school board and the school administration are engaged. The school board agreed to retain an engineer to see how to improve the site. The Pinery Park Trail and parking lot can provide some parking relief. Those are all positive things. And this is their parking study by the town's staff. The morning is good. The afternoon queues a bit back onto Arrowhead. And there's a parked vehicle count. There's 14 cars parked on Darlington Trail in a 15-minute window, and some on other locations. These are the other items that the town staff reported. Parking on streets neighboring a school is not unusual in Oakville. The parking activity was typical for like streets in Oakville. Prohibiting parking on one street will move parking activity to other streets. That's where that comes from, the town staff. And that's all consistent with the prior report from the Department of Engineering. The recommendation was that there is no technical basis to support changes to parking on Darlington Trail, to keep one side no parking and the other side parking. With all these positive steps and progress and the work that's been done at the school by the administration, I'm shocked that we're back here today on this basis. All the items that this council wanted addressed were addressed in a positive manner. The onus, I believe, is on you. Why would you support this proposal when your steps have been met? I'd be remiss not to comment on some of the prior delegations tonight. What we have heard is about their self-interest. It's about their convenience and their supposed safety. I do not get a sense of community. Most of the pictures show perfectly legal activity. Cars are usually parked properly. Cars drive down streets. Taking a picture of a driving car shouldn't be shocking. At the committee, Ms. Hager has complained about a kid getting bumped by a bicycle by another kid, of inconvenience backing up due to pedestrians, of mums talking on her street. This isn't just about parked cars. At committee, Mr. Joe Medill, he declared that there was vandalism, and he even declared there's arson. Most people are aware that trail access points are notorious for problems, but it isn't parents walking kindergarten and primary-aged kids to and from school who cause problems. What does Mr. Medill think? Does he think that I firebomb houses after I drop off my 4-year-old? I don't think so. This isn't just about parked cars. A number of these people are picture takers. You've seen lots of that. At committee, they showed a picture of Councillor Adams talking to a local reporter as evidence of a problem. I kid you not. But this picture-taking behavior has also been disturbing. In particular, Mr. Walter Galveo with his video camera. 3 different women have told me of their discomfort with his behavior. One lady said she felt creeped out, threatened, and fearful. Another lady said she dreads walking on Darlington Trail sidewalk, but refuses to give in to intimidation and bullying. The one lady's 11-year-old daughter was videotaped walking across the street by Mr. Galveo, and he showed his video to my wife and another passerby, both of who were complete strangers to him. He said he was going to show it to the mayor. The same Mr. Galveo said at the committee meeting and again tonight that he didn't think parents should let their children walk down a trail access that's adjacent to his home because there could be pedophiles. This is the same person who goes on about his personal safety. This sort of behavior shouldn't be indulged. Please stop indulging it. What's this proposal about? It's about declaring Joshua Creek parents and their children to be nuisances. The proposal is bad for the school, and it's bad for parents with young children. In the end, I believe these people regret the trail access point and that their behavior will continue as long as you indulge it. Our community does not want our local streets to be made inaccessible to our local community. Minor inconveniences are part of being in a community. Referencing some defunct Ward 3 school that might have no parking on some street is okay, I guess, but we don't have that in our community, and we don't want it. It's very much a community issue. There's petitions, and these were from our community, not from somewhere else. There are many grounds to reject this proposal. You've heard them before. To approve the amendment, in my mind, is arbitrary and without merit. This is where we are. This is a proposed amendment. But the community's seething about this. They do not like Darlington Trail to get special status. I've been told by residents of Bluestream, Bon Echo, Clearwater, and Presqu'Île that Darlington Trail is not special and they will demand equivalent status. Your staff report says that the proposal will simply move more traffic to their streets. Yet Councillors Conn and Adams supported it in committee. This is an outrage to residents of those streets. These are your constituents. This will affect the school site, affect Arrowhead Road and the roundabout. You put all of that, no on-street parking anywhere, you're going to put all that in there. You better study before you make your decision how that's going to affect the roundabout. It's a vital roadway. But it gets worse. Joshua Creek parents that live by St. Marguerite's have said that Darlington Trail, if it's given special treatment, they'll refuse to continue to accommodate the parking and stopping on their streets. They have been sacrificing for more years than houses have existed on Darlington Trail. But if that's the game, they say so be it. If St. Marguerite parents living on Darlington Trail who drive to St. Marguerite's are such hypocrites, then no more. Darlington Trail has nothing on Bayshire. In the town, better study the Rockingham Bayshire intersection. It's already backed up to Rockingham some days, and the Bayshire Northridge intersection. What I'd really like is for the St. Marguerite parents on Darlington Trail to explain to Principal Agro and the parent council at St. Marguerite's why St. Marguerite should be able to handle all of its traffic on site and how stopping and parking elsewhere in the community is unacceptable. But it's still worse. Neighbors of the soccer field say that they put up with far worse than Darlington Trail, and they are right. People have told me that if Darlington Trail gets special status, that the streets around soccer fields should have time of day seasonal restrictions to match soccer schedules and season, that on-street parking and stopping be restricted. They say they regret it, but if they can't park, then why should they continue to be inconvenienced? If you're using a Ward 3 as precedent, there's an example of the Southeast Sports Field to follow. The town needs to study this. These sports fields are valuable assets and they will be compromised. I think the Oakville Soccer Club should be consulted. The Oakville Soccer Club is the biggest user of on-street parking in our community. And it's not just for 15 or 20 minutes in the afternoon. I have a handout for the councillors. It's for hours and hours. It's in the evenings. It's throughout the weekend. The president of the Oakville Soccer Club is Mrs. Jennifer Medill. What is the position of the Oakville Soccer Club on people using residential streets to pick up and drop off players, and on parents and players parking on residential streets? Mrs. Medill's input should be sought. She presented here tonight. Mrs. Medill said that she supports parking and stopping restrictions to be imposed to prevent inconveniencing residents. Is that the position of the Oakville Soccer Club? I suggest to council that they seek input from Mrs. Medill and the Oakville Soccer Club before they go down the road of promoting these unwanted parking restrictions in our community. In the end, our community as a whole is outraged at how Councillor Adams and Councillor Khan are indulging the complainers on Darlington Trail to the detriment of the rest of their constituents and the community at large. This needs to stop. Please vote based on the evidence. Don't damage our community. But community over self-interest. Keep our community streets open to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins, for your information. I wonder if you could give us a little more information.
Certainly.
When was the last AGM of your group?
I believe it was in 2010.
How many members has your group?
I don't know. Our membership secretary recently resigned. She had a significant personal issue regarding her spouse.
How many directors does your group have?
I believe we have 6.
When was your last directors meeting?
We had one. It was in the fall sometime.
So would there be a resolution of your directors or your members supporting the presentation that you've made here tonight?
I've been in contact with the chairperson, and it's been an executive decision on this. Various members of our association have been active in our activities, and they're very supportive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that information. Any other questions? Councillor Duddick.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Thank you again for doing your presenting again this evening. The other night at committee I asked you, and it's been demonstrated yet again through the presentation of your document here, you talk about self-interest a lot, and yet when I hear you talk about if Darlington gets this, the others are concerned it's going to go on to their street, and that's understandable. I don't ever hear you talk about it being addressed by the school board. I don't ever hear you talk about it being on site. You're just talking about it going to yet another street which to me causes even more of a problem because it's pushing it onto somebody else's street, and they're in turn saying, well, we don't want it either. And understandably so, it should be on the school board property.
The other local streets do share in it. You saw from the staff report that Bluestream shares in it, Presqu'île shares in it, Bon Echo shares in it. The school board, you know, they had their own delegation tonight, I suppose. I'm very impressed with Principal Kant. She's made real efforts since the fall to make the parking lots work more effectively. As a parent, I see that. I see her out there working really hard. You know, I'm fully supportive of her efforts. You know, it's a small school site, and I hope that the traffic study that they've agreed to operate will show ways to make that site work better. I really hope that they get a second kiss and ride there. She said that she looked at that. She didn't dismiss it out of hand. She looked at it, and she determined that given the flow of pedestrians, she said this at the committee, the flow of pedestrians, that it wasn't a safe option. She couldn't, in good conscience, do that to put the pedestrians students at risk and discourage more pedestrian traffic. So I'm hoping that the engineering study can find a way to make that work, whether it's changes to the site, physical or otherwise, that will do it.
Just a supplemental question, and I can appreciate it's not something that you typically would answer, but given the fact you've been involved in the community, you might have heard discussions that have taken place in the past. If in fact the traffic has been found through this study that is going to be completed, that in fact it should be addressed, has there been any comment from the school board to your group or to the residents regarding the fact they will be taking some steps to address it? Other than a study, that's all I hear. I don't hear any willingness to address it on the property itself.
I don't know what other options they would have on that property. If they expropriated some more land from the town or bought it, they could, you know, pave over one of the soccer fields, I suppose. But there really is no green space on that site. You know, I don't know if they do parkades at school. Maybe they need to put a parkade up at that school. But I don't know if the Darlington Trail residents support a parkade behind their houses. You could ask them that.
The other residents on the other streets as well,
on
I would
Bluestream,
imagine.
yeah. Bluestream backs onto it just the same.
Thank you.
Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much for your delegation. Just about the traffic concerns, would you agree, is it your position, and I'm not speaking about NEORA right now, I'm speaking about you personally, would you agree that a lot of the traffic issues that we're dealing with today stem from the poor planning or maybe the unanticipated growth or the poor planning from the school board?
I think the school board should have built another school. They built 600 students would be nice on that site. There's 900, and that causes issues. They did not build another school, they built an addition. So that has caused the school to be an oversized school.
Okay, so based on that, now I'm going to move to NEORA. Did NEORA ever take a position, or is there any resolution for NEORA to lobby the school board to deal with the parking issues on site?
Our position was to, our organization didn't exist at the time the additions were built. It came to be after. And the first issue that we dealt with was related to the additions. And the position of the association was that they should have parking spots added, which were, thanks to Mayor Burton's efforts and yourself, and as well to have a second drop-off loop in the other parking lot. We lobbied for that, and we supported those changes to the site plan.
All right, and since then, has NEORA passed a resolution? You're right, it didn't exist when the school was being built or expanded, but since then, has NEORA taken a position to lobby the school board?
No.
Will NEORA be taking a position to lobby the school board to improve access to traffic there?
We continue to do that. In October, we requested again that that be looked at.
Just on the point of Councillor Adams and myself acting against our constituents, can you please just clarify how we are acting against our constituents?
Residents on Bluestream, Bonaco, Presqu'île, and other streets think that you're just punting the ball to them. That traffic is shared right now. Darlington has a significant minority of it. They do not have it all. You're putting the issue over to their streets. It's not a solution. It's a concentration of the issue.
Would you not agree that the residents of Darlington are also our constituents and that we have a certain obligation to listen to them as well?
Of course, they're your constituents. They're in Ward 6.
But listening to their position is somehow contrary to the rest of my constituents.
I think you need to weigh all the constituents and to put one group over the other ones to take a position that I'm going to shift the burden from you to you. You have a problem, I'm going to put the problem over to you. I don't think that is good, good service to your constituents.
You appreciate that you and I have met on several occasions. We've had coffee together. You've called me to meet with you because you specifically had a concern. And I treated you as my constituent, did I not?
Yes.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Mr. Hawkins. Oh, sorry, Councillor DeMoff.
Thank you. Going back to what Councillor Duddick had asked, who do you think is responsible for providing parking and safe flow of traffic at that site? Is it the town of Oakville or the school board?
The school board and the town of Oakville both provide service to the community. The school board provides parking lots and kiss and drop. The town provides on-street parking. That's a service. It's noted in the staff report that that's a service to the neighborhood and surrounding community. So it's a shared responsibility in my mind, and according to the staff and according to the town's official plan, that on-street parking is a service.
So if this was a shopping mall, would you think the town is responsible for looking after what happens on a commercial site? Or if it was the hospital, are we responsible for what happens on that site?
Yes, the town definitely has responsibility for all sites throughout the town. That's why you have bylaws of various kinds to ensure that the sites operate properly. I'm not sure where your question is leading, sorry.
Generally, when someone owns a site, they're responsible for what is going on that site, be it parking or the kiss and ride. It's not the town of Oakville's responsibility to regulate what is happening on that site. So I'm a little confused why the blame is being directed towards the town and you're not focusing on the school board to fix the problem that's happening on the Joshua Creek school site.
The school is at capacity. The staff reports so that every single parking spot was used, that the kiss and ride was fully utilized, that the traffic was backed onto Arrowhead. The parents are taking the option that that capacity is fully utilized. They're taking on-street parking spots to do the overflow. The school board, it's great that they're engaged. They've agreed to do a study to see what else they can do to improve that site. If they can make improvements, I want that. I want less traffic, and if there can be more cars through the kiss and ride so you don't have drop-off activity on streets, that's a positive for everyone. I really, though, think adding parking spots is not necessarily going to happen at the school site given its small nature and that there's very little green space for the children right now. So paving over the rest of the school site might eliminate on-street parking, but I think that's a bigger negative. I think having the kiss and ride working in the other parking lot would be an asset.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins, for your
information.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
Is Jamie Plain?
Ms. Plain, welcome. And Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening, Mayor Burton, councillors and neighbours. My name is Jamie Plain. I live on Bluestream Drive, where Darlington Trail meets Bluestream. I do not support the proposed bylaw regarding stopping prohibitions on Darlington Trail. I support the Community Services Report written by the Engineering and Construction Department dated January 18th, 2012, in which specific recommendations are made to make positive change in the Joshua Creek community. If the Budget Committee considers funding the paving and winter maintenance of the Pinery Park Trail, there will be better access to another viable parking options for parents who choose to drive their children to Joshua Creek Public School. Providing improved trail access to Pinery Park and further educating the school community of the pickup and drop-off options will decrease utilization of neighboring streets, including Darlington Trail. I have walked with my children across Bluestream Drive to the sidewalk on Darlington Trail and down to Joshua Creek Public School every day for 3.5 years. I have witnessed times when it is busy on Darlington, and I am very empathetic to the frustrations of the residents. I would hope that the primary concern of the residents is for the safety of all the children. It was acknowledged by previous delegates that people who choose to buy homes adjacent to schools and public parks do know when they purchase their homes that they will have more vehicle and pedestrian traffic during school hours. This would also imply during soccer games, increased traffic flow during football practices and community events. Darlington Trail is convenient for both vehicle and pedestrian traffic due to the direct walkway connection to Joshua Creek Public School property. Yes, residents are forced to be diligent to watch for traffic and school children exiting the school pathways in the morning, before school starts, and after school, just as I must be diligent in making my children aware of the dangers of crossing the road and people exiting their driveways. Amending a bylaw on stopping prohibitions on Darlington Trail will not stop students from walking to school in front of and behind the houses on this street. Most people dropping off and picking up their children are respectful, and it is unfortunate that there have been incidents where the residents on Darlington have been inconvenienced. This is bound to happen in any community, on any street, adjacent to a school and public park. However, from what I've witnessed in the past 3.5 years, the parking activity is not unusual. The Department of Engineering confirmed this on page 5 of their report, stating that such parking activity is typical for streets surrounding schools throughout Oakville. And if a prohibition were introduced on one street, it would more than likely displace parking to other adjacent streets near the school. As a resident on an adjacent street, I am genuinely concerned that if further parking restrictions are placed on Darlington, that there will be greater safety issues relating to the pedestrian traffic in the area. All the children walking to school from the greater community will assume the inherent risk of crossing on busier streets. When the signs were up in Darlington, there was increased congestion on Bluestream Drive before and after school. Bluestream Drive, unlike Darlington Trail, is a through street where vehicles tend to travel at higher speeds. Because of this, there are greater risks to pedestrian safety on streets like Bluestream and Pinery than there are on Darlington Trail. This council should not be changing bylaws based on the pressures of persuasive residents. If real solutions to traffic problems cannot be found, the issues of Darlington Trail will be pushed to Bluestream and other community streets, compounding the problems and increasing the risks to all children walking to school. The Engineering and Construction Department provided a report with recommendations that can make real positive change to the current traffic flow problem. This report does not support a bylaw revision to the stopping prohibitions on Darlington Trail. This report offers recommendations and real solutions to help alleviate the parking and traffic flow issues on Darlington Trail and other streets near the school. This has become an emotional issue for many people here today, and this is not just a nuisance issue for the residents of one street in Joshua Creek. This has become a broader community safety issue. Amending a bylaw on stopping prohibitions on Darlington Trail cannot be the solution. I encourage Council to really look at this issue from a pedestrian safety standpoint, as Joshua Creek Public School is a school where approximately 70% of the students walk daily. With ongoing promotion within the school and the support of the parents, the percentage of children who walk to school continues to rise. Last Wednesday, February 8th, 74%, or 531 Joshua Creek Public School students walked to school. Council must look at the recommendations in the report to find real solutions to the traffic issues around the school. If real solutions are not found, you will likely see other residents from other streets standing in front of you in the future, looking for further bylaw amendments because of the impact of traffic in front of their homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the information. Councillor Khan has a question for you.
Thank you, Ms. Plain, for your delegation, and I appreciate that your balanced approach. You showed empathy for both sides, and it was much needed. You live on Bluestream. What kind of traffic before the no parking prohibition was in place? What was traffic flow like that before that? How many cars would normally be parked on Bluestream?
I live right in the middle of Bluestream, and if you literally drive up Darlington, you would hit my house. So I see the traffic that pulls in, slows down, goes into Darlington, stops along the side where there is parking allowed. Prior to any signage being put up last year, it was moderate. But I do have to comment on the traffic flow on the far end towards Arrowhead, because it is heavily congested at all times on that end. There is a bus that drops off at a post box right at the end, right by the stop sign. And I believe it's from the MUN school, the French immersion school. And there is always parents picking up their children in vehicles parked at the end of that street. So there's always a lot of congestion there. Because when I turn right onto my street, it's always a challenge, about 3 to 3:20 in the afternoon there. And so it was moderate on our street. As I said, people would come down, slow down, and go on to Darlington, those that choose to drop their children off. One comment that I want to make about that is I know most of the people that are dropping off their children in that area. Most of them do it because they want to facilitate a neighborly kind of park-related environment for their children, where they actually take their kids after school, go down to the park. They're playing with their kids. We're playing soccer in the fields. This is something that we'll do for 20 minutes to an hour after school on nice sunny days. And it facilitates a really nice interaction after school for the parents and the kids. And I would hate to be losing that. So that is one thing I do notice. So those people that are parked there are actually parked there for a reason. They're not parked there just for pure convenience. If there was more access and paving out to the Pinery Park parking lot, I do think people would use that space. I really do. That is access right there to the park. So.
And what happened when, I think the signs were up for maybe 2 weeks, the no stopping signs?
They were up almost a full month.
Okay, what happened to parking on Bluestream at that point? You said initially it was moderate. Did it increase significantly?
I am so glad you asked that question, because my house became like a drop-off, to the point where finally I started knocking on windows myself, suggesting to people that they drive directly to the school, that it was just so unsafe. And I'm so shocked that people will drop off their children in the middle of the road like that. I don't understand it. I would never do that with my kids. Just go, 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 and hopefully Johnny doesn't forget his lunchbox in the back seat of the car and turn around to get it while the parent's driving off. It really bothered me a lot when people were stopping like that, and people started parking in front of my house, even though there are stop signs prohibiting that. It says no stopping right in front of my house. I had people stopping. And across the street in front of my neighbor's house, where there's a no stopping sign, there were people there. There were people on the corner, which I feel is a blind corner, right again at the top of Darlington Trail, parked there. And it was just a very unsafe situation. I don't know, there was no one who came out to actually pull Bluestream during that time, but it was very concerning to me, and I did knock on a number of windows, as I know some of my neighbors did as well. And so it went all the way up, and it just transferred, like it really did. The people that were dropping off were people I had never even noticed dropping off kids, like in Darlington. Like it just, I don't know what happened, where they came from, but yeah.
I guess I appreciate where your empathy comes from for the people in Darlington Trail, because you've experienced it firsthand. And
I saw. I know what's going to happen.
You've knocked on people's car windows and asked them to move along. So would you be supporting, would you endorse a resolution that opens up Pinery Park and a paveway to that? And you believe that it would improve some of the traffic flow and take away a lot of the traffic flow off, Darlington, Bon Echo, Bluestream?
I think we need to continue to educate the school community in order to make that happen. I don't think that would happen immediately. The people that you see here tonight are the ones that have real true interest and would immediately go there as soon as it opens up. There are a lot of people that I do not recognize that were dropping their children off in front of my house. It would need real education. In talking with Mrs. Kant, I know she has done a very diligent job of educating the students, and we have to go further than that and educate the parents as well, especially when it comes to the young children, like the kindergarten children, because that's where a lot of these parents are coming from. Their kids are too young to walk the farther distances, so they're the ones that are dropping off these young kids and trying to do the quick kiss and ride and that kind of thing. And some days it just gets busy and you want the convenience factor and all that kind of thing. So you really have to educate these people on their options. So we'll have to continue that.
Thank you very much for your delegation and your answers.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, but thank you very much for coming, Madam Clerk.
The next delegation is Heather Gabrowski.
Ms. Gabrowski?
Heather Gabrowski.
Going once, going twice. Let's go to the next name.
The next delegation
we'll
is
circle
Tony
back.
Lang, Joshua Creek Public School Council.
Ms. Lang, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Good evening. My name is Tony Lang, and I'm a member of the Joshua Creek Public School Parent Council. Neither of our co-chairs could be here tonight, so they've asked me to speak on their behalf. The Council stands by its previous position that the proposal to amend the bylaw is detrimental to the function of our school, traffic in the community, and the safety of the student population. We are disappointed that councillors wish to proceed with this amendment despite the recommendation from the Department of Engineering to maintain the current parking regulations on Darlington Trail. We are disappointed that our school neighbors persist in pursuing special parking status on a public street that provides safe access for our children to get to school and to the public park. The school administration continues to make improvements right at Joshua Creek. However, parking is limited to the spaces that are available, and therefore cars are required to find alternative parking. We have seen less congestion on Darlington Trail since these improvements. As well, the Pinery parking lot remaining open should help this congestion also. And I just want to make a note that the Pinery parking lot has never been opened in the winter in the past. This is the first year that it's happened, so there's definitely an education process for people to know to use that parking lot. We believe proceeding with the amendment is detrimental to the community at large, and it's not necessary. We hope you will reconsider this motion. Thank you. I just wanted to say one more thing on a personal level. It sounds like the residents of Darlington Trail are very concerned with having their street used as a kiss and ride, which I can understand. But I don't understand why there cannot be respectful parking on that street. And I'm wondering also why the parking wouldn't be moved to the side where the sidewalk is to avoid some of these issues that they're concerned with of kids crossing the street, etc.
Thank you very much for your information. Councillor Adams.
Just on the last point about why not switch around Darlington Trail, I think if you look at the street, the longer open stretches on the south and west sides where currently all the photos that we saw earlier today, there were 17 vehicles parked around that corner.
Right.
Hence, that's why that's the open piece. The other side largely has a set of driveways that make it difficult to have 17 vehicles parked on that side. So if you restricted to one side, I think you'd have more blocked driveways causing problems on the other side. And the other issue, I think that we've
Councillor,
seen,
is there,
yeah, there's a question.
There's a question. There's a question.
Yeah, there's a question in here. So the other issue is one of parking versus stopping, and what I have noted when I'm around there and looking at the vehicles, the ones on Darlington and Pinery, I mean, Pinery had, you know, one vehicle there, but it was stopping, so there was a parent in the vehicle sitting there waiting.
Okay.
On some of the other streets, Bon Echo and Presqu'île, it was predominantly parked vehicles, so the vehicle would park and the parent would go get the child. So you.
That's what I'm suggesting, though.
Two different
If you want to get
dynamics.
rid of the kiss and ride, why would you not just have parking on one side of the
Well,
street?
parents aren't doing that, is my point.
But I'm suggesting that it's because maybe parking's on the wrong side. But I'm not an engineer.
Well,
That's
anyway.
I park. I don't do kiss and ride, and that is the reason I don't actually go into the school parking lot after school, because I can't get a parking spot unless I'm there 45 minutes before drop-off. I just can't get a parking spot because we like to stay at the park. As Jamie indicated, there are a number of parents who like to use the park. So my preferred parking is the Pinery parking lot. But on occasion, that trail leading to the school is not usable. So I have parked on Darlington Trail. But I do not use it as a kiss and ride, and I understand the problems they have with that.
So here's my question for you, going back to the
Okay.
original prompt that I had. You said that you use the park on a regular basis after
Yes.
school. How many parents are there with you using the park after school? I mean,
Well,
today is
depending
kind
on
of
the
a hard
weather.
day because it's, you know, winter and probably fewer
There's
kids.
a number,
but-
well, I mean, I haven't done the count, but there's lots of parents at the school after park. Many of them are parents that walk their children to school, but there are many that also drive. I know a number of people that use the Pinery parking lot, but as I said, on occasion, I have parked respectfully on Darlington Trail. So I have an issue with that street being shut down for us, because it does provide a safe alternative for parking after school. And if you want to use that park and you can't get into the school parking lot, and the Pinery parking lot has not been open in the past, and the trail is not always usable, it is another alternative.
So if we move down the road of trying to upgrade that trail, that's going to be a benefit eventually.
Certainly.
Okay. And the other question I had for you is, if the school board goes and does a traffic study on the site, but they don't count any of the vehicles off-site, is that going to be a valid test of whether the site's functioning properly?
I can't answer that question
Okay,
about validity of it.
Okay, so but if you discount the the 17 vehicles that were on Darlington today and the 10 that were on Bon Echo and Presqu'île combined, I mean, shouldn't you be adding that to the vehicles that are there to pick up or drop off kids?
To the traffic study?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything should be considered.
Okay, thank you.
One more comment before I forget. I often walk down Darlington Trail in the morning because I do use the Pinery parking lot, and it's very quiet. Like, I am surprised that there's still so much concern about that in the morning. It's very quiet in the morning. I walk there practically every morning. So the most traffic is the foot traffic from what I'm observing.
Before you run away, Councillor Khan has a question for you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lang. Councillor Adams is an engineer, so whenever he asks a question, he assumes everyone else is an engineer as well.
Sorry.
I know that you're here as representative of the co-chairs of the
Yes.
council.
Well, I'm here for two reasons. I'm here on a personal level and as well. to
Okay,
speak on their
my question deals with respect to the council. Is the council actively still lobbying the board to improve the traffic concerns there? And are you in discussions? Have there been talks? And what has the outcome been of that, if you've had those talks?
Unfortunately, I wasn't at our last council meeting. I was ill. I'm not sure if the council or Mrs. Kant is continuing with that, but I know there have been meetings. I don't have the details. I'm sorry.
Councillor Demoff.
You may not know the answer to this, and Mr. Cullen has left, but do you know what the busing distance is for kindergarten children? So what is the distance that they're required to walk? And for kindergarten, or? For kindergarten, yeah. I know for the higher grades, it's a greater distance, but I've heard a few people who've come from the school the last time this issue came, and this time as well, who talk about it's too far for the kindergarten children to walk, and I just wondered if you knew what that distance was.
I'm sorry, I don't. I think it's 1.6 for students in general. I'm, for example, 1.1, so but I don't know it for kindergarten. Sorry.
We can follow up with Mr. Cullen for you. Ms. Blaine, thank you very much for your information. Madam Clerk.
The next delegation is Laura Kakalitis, again on the Darlington Trail issue.
Welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
I appreciate you trying to pronounce my last name. It was okay. It's Kakalitis. Thank you for the Kakalitis. Yes. You're close. Thank you for listening to me this evening. I am a resident of Oakville. I live on Castell Boulevard, and I use Darlington Trail quite often to bring my children to school. I don't have a long argument, and I don't want to waste any more of your time. I just want to reiterate the fact that a lot of the discussions will have a rippling effect. I know that many residents on my street have become aware of the situation, and during the summer months, our street is quite congested with soccer games, and it does become quite a safety issue on our street as well. And I know that residents on my street are talking amongst themselves about the elitism of the Darlington Trail issue, and then that having a rippling effect on our street. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention as something to be considered, and that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you for bringing it to our attention. What was the name of your street again?
Castell Boulevard.
LaSalle?
Castell.
Castell.
Everybody pronounces it differently.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The next delegation is Shelley Benchich.
Ms. Bensage?
Hi.
Is that close?
Yeah, Bensage.
Oh, thank
Yes,
you.
very
Welcome.
good.
Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Shelley Bensage, and I live on Clearwater Crescent. I walk my two children to and from Joshua Creek Public School and always walk down Darlington Trail and down the path. Even though we walk to school, I am here tonight to strongly oppose the proposed bylaw change. I've talked with my neighbors, and many oppose this bylaw change. We are a community and should work together as a community to make things better, not push the problem onto someone else. One issue that Clearwater and Pinery streets face during the spring, summer, and fall months is the parking on our streets due to soccer games in our park. This is a complete inconvenience and hassle, but as a member of the community, I deal with it because I love the park, being so close to it, and is one of those conveniences that in the end makes our community a better place to live and a special place to live. Excuse me. As indicated in your engineering report that was done recently, the Joshua Creek Public School Darlington inconvenience is not an independent issue. It is an issue that many schools and streets in Oakville deal with. A large number of my neighbors on Clearwater currently drive their children to St. Marguerite Catholic School. St. Marguerite School has a smaller population of kids and therefore a smaller degree of the problem, but there is still parking and stopping issues on the surrounding streets. There is concern that if this bylaw is allowed, then how may it affect all of us? Everyone will want this bylaw, and rightfully so. Please vote for keeping our community streets open and for encouraging and sustaining a community and environment where our kids can feel safe and learn from neighborly examples. Thank you.
Thank you for your information. Before you go off, I do have a question for you. Are you aware of the initiative that your councilors have actually been behind in terms of both opening up Pinery Park and in paving the trail that leads up to the school?
Yeah, I am aware of it, but I'm aware of it because I do stay at the park usually every night with my kids and talk with the moms, and I've heard of that, yes.
And do you have any hope that these moves will assist over time to lessen the trouble?
I think it will. I think the communication of that will help, but I think the paving of the path is a big thing because I certainly don't like to walk down. My kids would like to walk through the park to go home, but I'm like, no, we're walking down Darlington because I'm not walking down that path. Okay. So.
That's useful information. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Madam Clerk.
The next delegation is Ken McLean.
Mr. McLean, welcome.
Well, it's good to be
Please feel
here.
at home and share your information with us.
To you. To your earlier opening comments, I'll be concise and relevant. I just found about the issue a couple of days ago, and I can empathize with all the folks on Darlington Trail. There's complaints on both sides, and I'm kind of shocked that the influence that we don't have on the Halton District School Board. If you think back to, probably the people were there, probably at least 1,000 people at the original meeting to get them to expand Joshua Creek Public School, right? So they succumbed to the pressure, but they didn't follow it all the way through to completion. Where's the rest of the facilities, right? As far as, in this case, parking and drop-off facilities. So I am an engineer, so I just want to implore you to listen to your engineers, because as people are saying, you're just squeezing the balloon, right? If it's not Darlington Trail, I live on Presqu'île, it's going to be on Presqu'île. If you want a specific complaint, some lovely young lady parked her black SUV with tinted windows right at the base of Presqu'île where it meets Arrowhead, and I'm trying to turn out of Presqu'île, and you can't see past her SUV. And that's where she's parking. I wasn't aware of the bylaw change last fall, so I could have been at that time, but you can see the impact of the moving the problem around, arranging the deck chairs, so to speak. But back to the influencing, I've managed industrial facilities in the then city of Scarborough, city of Niagara Falls, Mississauga, and it was mostly around tractor-trailer traffic, both our vehicles, suppliers' vehicles. Anytime we were causing a problem, whether we're within the bylaws or not, and the city called us, they said, fix it or else. We fixed it, right? There was no discussion, no studies, right? You know, you have till this time to fix it, we fixed it. So I don't know who's the proper person. If we have to lobby ourselves, I mean, that'll add weight to it, but ultimately I think that the town would have the weight, the authority to tell the Halton District School Board, finish the solution. You've got 1,000 student school now, build 1,000 student infrastructure to support parking and drop-off. It's as simple as that. It's a mass balance, right? Especially on inclement weather days. When I have to travel in that area, you don't change in traffic patterns. I don't go down Presqu'île anymore. I go out Rideau or Bluestream and avoid all that traffic because I have to take my kids to Iroquois Ridge. And if you want to talk about nightmares, that's even a bigger nightmare than Joshua Creek, because you got 1,500 students trying to get into 3 spots. So I just implore you to listen to your engineers, do the study, and get the Halton District School Board to pull up their socks and get the work done. Simple as that.
Thank you very much for your information. You've elicited a few questions from an engineer and a lawyer.
Okay. I'll take the engineer
we'll
first.
let the engineer go first.
Yeah.
All right. That's right. I won't go there. I'll go back to my pseudo-engineering question.
Yeah.
If they're doing a traffic circulation study on the school site, but they don't count the number of vehicles that are off the site, is it?
Yeah, it's not going to work.
Right. So here we have an issue where we've said we need you to fix this, and they've said, well, we'll do a study, but we're not going to count any of the vehicles. We're going to pretend that those people walk when they're not really walking.
No, you have to hold the Halton District School Board accountable for the entire traffic flow into that specific community at those specific time frames.
So,
I mean, and there's engineers out there who can do that.
And I guess the question is, will they be directed to do that?
Pardon me?
I guess the question is, will they be directed to do that? That's not.
Well, who has I don't know the politics well enough. Who has the authority to direct them to do that?
Have you ever been in contact with the school on this issue of traffic circulation?
No, my kids were fortunate enough they could walk to Joshua Creek.
Yeah.
But now that I drive them to Iroquois, as I said, I just avoid it entirely. I can empathize entirely with the folks on Darlington Trail, and my middle son is 16. And what I do when I'm driving him to Iroquois Ridge is I point out all the crazy drivers and the crazy parking maneuvers you see every single morning. I mean, you could have Halton police there, forget parking. They could just ticket a bunch of people just for the 3-point turns, the U-turns, the rolling stops. There's just hundreds of infractions every day. That alone would improve the safety of the community.
Right. You're right at the corner near Arrowhead, is that what you said?
No, I'm at 2372 Presqu'île, which is probably about 10 houses up from Arrowhead.
Okay.
But I used to drive down onto Arrowhead to get to Iroquois Ridge.
Today when I went by, I think I saw 4 vehicles and what was clearly a contractor on your street.
Yeah.
Is that typical?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what I saw around the school today was probably typical for a nice day, but clearly there were substantially more vehicles over on Darlington.
Yeah, definitely. The other day I had to drop off my son. He was late, of course, coming back from Iroquois Ridge, so I'm getting into the 845 traffic at Joshua Creek, and as I'm coming along Arrowhead, I see the lineup of vehicles, and they're backed up to the stop sign at Bluestream. So I just take the Castell or one of the other side streets and come in from the west to my house. But and you mentioned about busing. Sometimes buses, again, you do the engineering, you find it's less vehicles, but if you've got 20 or 30 little kids getting off a bus, the time to disembark all those children is very time consuming as well. And then if you put yourself in the shoes of an impatient mom who's late for work, and you've got a bus and you've got another 10 vehicles, and you go, okay, it's 3 minutes per car and 30 minutes for the bus, screw it, I'm going to Darlington, right? You have no choice.
I did notice there was a bus that was spoken of earlier that goes down there, and I noticed exactly that same thing. There were people who actually parked their car on the corner, so it's unrelated to Joshua Creek, it's related to Munns, but they would park their vehicle to pick their child up from a bus stop as opposed to walking. The only other question I had for you is, on your street, the vehicles that park there, was I correct in my thought that there's more people there who actually park and walk to the school to collect their child and walk back than park and wait for the child? There's some of both going on. But
It's even when there's special events at the school, Presqu'île will fill up to overflowing.
When every single parent is there at the school.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's a congested area. And the other thing, somebody probably want to reiterate, but it's other schools have school bus pickups in that area. So once they stop, put those flashing red lights on, all the traffic stops.
Right.
And that just adds to the congestion in the area.
Okay. Thank you very much for your information.
My pleasure.
Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. There's an interesting point that you raised, and that was about, why isn't the town putting more pressure on the school board? And I just wanted to clarify that. And I do have a question to follow. We don't have jurisdiction. We can't tell them when to expand. We can't tell them how many students that they can have. We can't tell them how many teachers or curriculum or student-to-teacher ratio. That's outside of our jurisdiction. And that's why all my questions are asking the residents, how hard have you been lobbying? That's exactly why you have councillors that sit on this council, and then you have school board trustees who lobby the board. So I just wanted to clarify that point. My question to you goes back to your engineering background. You said that, if we redirect traffic from Darlington, it'll go somewhere else. You use the analogy of a balloon.
Yes.
And that works well, and I agree with that. But what happens is when you have a site, such as a school, that's somehow improved to absorb that excess traffic? Is it not possible that it could absorb most of that traffic so you wouldn't have that redistribution on the streets?
That's right. Yeah, that's what I'm proposing, is that we get a leadership position, one of the councillors, to lobby the Halton District School Board, do the study, do an all-encompassing study, and all the traffic patterns in the area, and say you need a parking capacity and a kiss and ride capacity of X in order to deal with worst case scenario. And you design it for worst case scenario, being it's raining out, it's -20, it's snowing. That's when everybody's gonna drive their kids to school and drop them off.
But then again, you're giving us more credit than it's due. We can't.
I never accept we can't at work.
We don't have jurisdiction, put it that way. But here's what we can do, is we have mechanisms through the site plan, and we're using that vehicle, and also we can regulate what happens on our streets.
Yeah, again, that's just a Band-Aid solution. If I was to go to my Teamsters business agent and said that everybody's going to get a pay reduction just because I can't get 6 guys to do their work, they would laugh at me. So.
And I agree with you, it is a Band-Aid solution, but the real solution is to improve traffic
Councillor.
flow on the school site.
Yeah.
Debating, thank you.
Yeah.
Questions?
Thank you.
You too. Mr. McLean, thank you very much for
Okay,
coming
pleasure.
and sharing your information.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. We called a name who didn't answer. It was Heather Gabrowski. So we called it again.
Heather.
Now, the clerk tells me that long after the deadline for delegations, we got a request from a Martin Jensen who wanted to delegate. Is Martin here? Well, hold on. You're not up yet. Have you got anything new to say?
I'd like to stand up and be counted.
Well, we're happy to take that. You get full credit for that already. In order to allow you to speak, it requires a resolution of council, and then we have to let anybody else. And I'm very reluctant to open the gate because I really believe we've now heard it all. That's why I started my question with, do you have something new? But if you just want to be recognized and counted, sir, you are recognized and you are counted. Councillor Khan.
I'll give you that resolution.
And I presume your ward mate is seconding it. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Mr. Jensen, you and whoever else, welcome to the podium.
Oh, thank you.
We look forward to any new information.
Well, considering I just phoned this afternoon, I'm hoping that I can actually reciprocate and, pay you back with something worthwhile. But, I live a few doors down from Ms. Plain. My kids walk to school every day, often with her kids. It's a small neighborhood. My kids play with Mino's kids in the summer. I have the pleasure of working with Joe. I don't buy the elitism, but I do believe in that balloon theory, which is, it seems like we're triangulating on if only the school board would fix the paving in the park and the parking lot, that would make a lot of sense. I agree. I'm not sure if it will happen. If it doesn't happen and you put up no parking signs on Darlington, thank you. You've just made their problem my problem. It remains a divisive issue. I'm not particularly, sure what the outcome is. It's unfortunate that we're seeing acrimony already at this stage. I'll just echo Ms. Plain's comments, which is we're a through street. There's a lot of fast cars that actually come down all day long. You line the street with cars on both sides, and then you have kids starting to cross because the sidewalk is on the opposite side of the street. So my kids are walking there. My kids are crossing the street. If it's not a problem on Darlington, then it'll be a problem on Bluestream, and there's not a lot of value added to that decision. So I don't know what you can do to compel the school board to take a more responsible or reasoned approach to this. I just find it very hard to believe that this is going to be an answer that's going to put this one back in the bottle and not see it resurrected in some other form.
All right, thank you very much for your information. You guys, any questions? Okay. Anyone else? Yes, the gates are open. Just please identify yourself for the clerk and share your information.
Sorry, my name is Jennifer Michaud, and I had the pleasure of talking to Max Kahn last night after I sent him an email, which he promptly called me, I think, within 5 minutes of reading it. I live on the corner of Pinery, Crescent, and Clearwater, and I have seen, I do know, and I do know the Mixic family very well, and I do see the problems that they encounter, and I totally understand what they're going through. I did not know about the Pinery Park option. I think that would probably alleviate a lot of issues, but I think in order to do that, you'd have to create a second exit on it, because if you have the only one way in, it's just going to cause problems. If you make it more like a kiss and ride entrance there for folks, it could clearly work, because they, they can drive up, drop their kids off, and get an exit out. That would be faster for everybody. My kids go to St. Marguerite. We do have smaller population. We do have I have to feel a very good kiss and ride program there right now. The parking inside is not the best because the parents are not the best, but the actual kiss and ride does work. We do have a lot of congestion, especially on bad weather days, but there don't seem to be any issues with the neighbors and stuff. So I think between our schools, our teachers, and I do see the principal out there monitoring things regularly. So I think they do have it working very smoothly. But again, we are almost like half the size of Joshua Creek, so it is different. But just a thought to think about another exit out of the Pinery parking lot. That's it. Okay, thank you.
Before you run away,
yes,
let me thank you for the very valuable suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for not being shy. Any others? Thank you very much. You're a wonderful audience. All right, we'll confine it to table, and we'll take into consideration, I'm sure, all that we've heard here. And Council, I'm going to draw your attention to the next step on our journey through this agenda, and that's, I believe I already asked about declarations of pecuniary interest. That was up here. So that brings us, I hope, to our standing committee reports. And the first one is the 2012 Budget Committee, and I'll ask for that one first. Councillor Johnston moves adoption of that report. I'm looking for another second. Oh, anybody but you. Councillor Khan, thank you. You're the chair of that committee, so I just thought, in the interests of, so it's moved and seconded, all in favor, opposed if any, that is adopted. So now that brings us to community services, and community services is the, I guess, the main event tonight. Councillor Robinson.
I would like to move approval of those minutes, please.
All right, I need a seconder. Councillor Duddock. Any separations? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. So that's the report with the, so what that means is Council has accepted the recommendation of Community Services Committee from last week, and the signs will go up. Before I leave that topic, though, I think I should tell you, we have enforced the spirit of keeping your land use on your land on other schools in this town in the past with success and with this method. It may well be that Darlington Trail may need to be augmented with further restrictions if in fact the balloon squeezes in the wrong way. And on behalf of the community and on behalf of the council, as your mayor, I will be taking up the subject with the Halton District School Board to see if I can't motivate them to cooperate before we reach for further weapons in our backpack. But it has been possible through the years to get schools to confine their activities to their land, and I'm confident that in the end we will achieve that here. The Budget Committee, I believe, has recommended Council, which will consider the matter on the 5th of March, the paving of the Pinery Park Trail. Councillor Adams, do you want to speak to that?
On that particular point, there's funding allotted to the Active Transportation Master Plan, and it's through that vehicle that we're asking that it be paved.
So there's every prospect that that'll happen. I wouldn't expect council to go this way on this item and go a different way on that item. So there will be relief coming in the future, I'm confident. Councillor Elger?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. The last speaker, I thought, raised an excellent suggestion that we should look at, and I would ask staff if we could put that as part of this motion, to in fact look at a second entrance so we could have a kiss and ride going through the Pinery Park.
The motion is gone, but okay. The Budget Committee...
Budget Committee, we will, but I'm wondering if staff could
the Budget Committee actually doesn't meet again, but we can definitely pursue that. You don't need a motion to do it.
I think it's an excellent suggestion. I'd like to thank it for coming forward.
So hopefully there's something in this for everyone, and I thank everyone from the community for the way they addressed the matter before us. I now have to turn back to our agenda and ask for a mover and a seconder for the Administrative Services Committee report. Councillor Johnston, Councillor DeMoff, any separations? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That report is adopted. Oh, all the way down to there. All right, so we have no consent items, And you've had your information items circulated electronically to you. You have your status of outstanding issues report. And I'm pretty sure that brings us to regional reports. Oh no, new business. New business of a condolence or congratulatory nature. Councillor Khan, we have a little welcome back item for you. And all being well, after the meeting, you'll be able to distribute it.
Getting that cake you're asking about.
You're so lucky that it's carried. You add a lot to our council, and you did have us worried for a while.
Thank you very much for your concern and your support along the way. It's much appreciated. The town of Oakville has been very, very supportive, and I received emails and telephone calls with people wishing me well in their prayers, and fortunately, I think it's working.
I think it was the prayers from those not accustomed to praying. All right, now, there's new business as well. Councillor Knoll.
I have a matter of congratulatory nature I'd like to deal with at this point. Well, that's a very tough act to follow. So my congratulations to Max. I missed you in your your anchorman status on our council. But tomorrow is Valentine's Day, but it also has a very special and significant meaning to one resident of Ward 5, and I would like to draw attention to this. It is also the 100th birthday of one of our finest constituents, Audrey Lever. Audrey, I should say that's her maiden name. Her current name is Audrey Turner. Audrey is celebrating her 100th birthday on Valentine's Day tomorrow, and I want to offer both mine and my colleagues congratulations to one of our oldest constituents. I haven't done a census to determine if she in fact is our oldest constituent, but I'm sure she's up there. Just a little bit about Audrey. Audrey is a relative newcomer to Oakville. She moved here 99 years ago at the age of 1. And so I think that by this point we can formally give her her full-fledged Oakville papers. Audrey is a resident at Queen's Seniors Residence, and she is the mother of 4 children, all raised in town, and she was married to Bert Webb, who passed away unfortunately, but her other matter of significance is she was also married later in life to Fred Turner, one of our former colleagues. Not that any of us, I'm not sure if Councillor Bird knew Mr. Turner. Okay, sorry. Oh, you do? Okay. I was taking a shot at it. But anyway, I wanted to offer my birthday congratulations to Audrey Turner. Wish her many happy returns and many more years as one of the finest constituents of Ward 5 in the town of Oakville.
And you can add the congratulations and best wishes of all the rest of us. Anyone else? All right. Regional reports and question period regarding town boards and advisory committees. Anything? Request for reports. I have here a request for report, moved by Councillor Elgar and seconded by Councillor Lapworth, that staff be directed to report back on the option to remove the current no stopping / parking restrictions in front of 2403 Calsick Gate. And is there consent for that report? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? The report will be done. I now ask for a mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws. Councillor Duddick, thank you. Councillor Giddings, thank you. This is the bylaws 2012-06. The bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing of money to meet current expenditures should the need arise until taxes are collected for the 2012 taxation year. 2012-13, the bylaw to appoint valuers of livestock and poultry for the corporation of the town of Oakville. 2012-15, bylaw to amend bylaw 1984-1, the traffic bylaw, And 2012-16, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of a meeting of council. All in favor? Opposed, if any? They are carried. That completes our agenda. Thank you for your time and attention. We are adjourned, and there's cake.